Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown from the Caregiving Years Training Academy. We're going to talk today about what could be your caregiving impact. And it's really thinking about if you were to serve and support family caregivers or former family caregivers, what would that work look like? So here we go. All right. Just a little bit about me. So I started working with family caregivers in 1990, and then I launched one of the very first online caregiving communities in 1996. And I helped my dad and helped my mom. When I think about what impact is, it's inspiring change. And what we're going to talk about today is what would be the change you'd like to make that could improve a family caregiver's day? What's the change that could improve a former family caregiver's day? Hi, Ken. Thanks for being here. So let's think through what could be an impact you make. When I put this presentation together, I really started thinking about the details of a family caregiver's day and thinking through what could we change so that different experiences, situations, and times could improve for a family caregiver. So these are just some categories that I thought of. And I'd love for you guys who are joining me live to share any insights as we quickly go through them. So when I think about the day, it could be a working family caregiver and the structure and systems that the working family caregiver has in place to be at work and to manage caregiving responsibilities. It also could be how is a caree engaged during a day? What programs and services do we use to provide care, to encourage engagement, and to provide socialization? It could be around meal planning during the day. It could be around structuring time away from caregiving during the day. And if anybody has any insights they'd like to add about what would you love to change about a family caregiver's day, please feel free to jump in. You're welcome to unmute or jump into the chat room. And I just want to mention that our two live guests today are both in uh, religious service. I think that's interesting. So that's awesome. Okay.
Hey Denise, I guess I'll chime in and say that, and hi, Sister Margie, Craig, good to meet you. Um, that stress is always the biggest,
There you go. Yeah.
all these things having to do with stress. I
Yes.
mean, you look
Yeah.
at the day to night, the past, the present, the future, finances. Um, Stress is always engaged in all those activities or planning ideas. I think that's the biggest thing in learning how to manage that well, and where it's uh, where it's dealing with your health, because it's a constant stress for caregivers that um, are not necessarily dealing with end of life or care for their loved one, but maybe have individuals in their family with particular disabilities that are lifelong. The caregiving journey is a lifelong. You're right there with them for their life. So you age with that. You have your own issues along the way. So I think that stress is something that you have to learn how to manage and manage it well to be able to continue to be a good caregiver to the caree.
Okay, so there's a couple things that you are inspiring me to talk about. And one is we talk about the 17 caregiving systems. And one of the systems is our nervous system. And I never thought of that as a system until someone in one of our training programs actually told me that. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so obvious and brilliant at the same time. Of course, nervous system, our stress. What's interesting about that and more complicated is that it's not just managing our stress and our nervous system, it's our carees. And it's other family members too who might be really stressed out by the experience and thinking, this is too much for me. So it's not just our stress, it's everybody else's stress that we encounter. And we seem to be the one that is able to steady stress, which I would also say can really activate ours. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to be the strong one. Others can cry and have difficult days, but we want to be the one that is like the rock. And that is a lot of pressure, a ton of pressure.
Denise, you're aware I just got off a vacation and um, we went on a vacation to take respite to as part of managing our stress, but it took a couple of days to get where I wasn't stressed out from the situation I left and all the caregivers and stuff that you had to do to get to put in place to take care of the caree or the carees in my case. Um, so it takes time to even come get to a point where you're not feeling stress when you're away and respite to relieve stress. So it's yeah, the nervous system component is definitely a big deal.
Yeah, and it's interesting what makes us nervous. So, for instance, you're on vacation and you're nervous about what's happening at home while you're on vacation, which makes sense. It's very difficult, especially if you've had situations where you've taken a break, but it was a nightmare what was happening at home while you were on your break. And so that experience just stays with us, which means it's really hard to relax into trusting all will be okay. And I also think that I want to say this in a right way, but sometimes if I took a break and at the end of the break I thought about going back into caregiving, that really stressed me out. So I was stressed out at the end of the break too, thinking about going back into caregiving. Oh, yeah. We are actually getting together in Chicago in the middle of May, May 15th, 16th, and 17th. And on the 16th, we're doing a series of workshops related to the theme of past, present, and future. And the theme is actually called Healing, Receiving, Planning. I think about past, present, future regularly because it shows up in our caregiving experience in different ways. We worry about what we did yesterday, even though yesterday is gone, but we still worry about it. So we're still trying to figure out what happened yesterday? How could I have done it better? Will they forgive me for how I did it yesterday? Will I recover? Will they recover? And present is how am I going to get to the next moment? And future is how am I going to get all of us to the next day? How am I going to make sure everybody's okay for the future, including myself? So I think past, present, future shows up for us all the time. And it's really thinking through how can we heal what happened in our past? How can we receive our present so that we are present to it? And then how can we plan for our future? So there's information. Actually, there's not. Oh, yes. No, there isn't. Sorry, I have not yet posted information about it. I started to think maybe I did, but the first week in October, I'll post information. We'll have early bird rates, and if you're in our certified caregiving consultant training program, the registration is free. You just have to get to Chicago. What do you guys think about changing perspective that a family caregiver might have? I think in order to change a perspective, we have to meet needs that are unmet. I'm not sure we can change someone's perspective about an experience when the experience is taking too much from them. Meaning it's very hard to have someone pivot to, oh, yeah, this is all going really well, and this has really improved my life when the exact opposite is happening. It's very difficult to change a perspective until we can change a reality.
Denise, I also think that perspective when it can change as new information is received and uh, y- case in point, uh, I've learned new things about autism and the lifespan of persons with autism that were kind of wow. Um, the limited lifespan, and it's because of different reasons and comorbidities and other kinds of social and health related things that can impact the lifespan of an individual with autism. That to me uh, changed my wife and I's perspective on some things and the way that we care and plan for the future, for their future, for our future. Also, as you get older as a caregiver, you're not able to do some of the things you used to be able to do in caring for the carees, and that changes your perspective. And I can't do this anymore, so I have to figure out a different way for this to be able to happen. And So that's a reality check. The perspective is a reality check for individuals once you get new information in and are able to um, let that become reason and understand that changes need to be made. So the perspective change is made at that time.
Yeah, those are great examples of that. And I often think about how caregiving, how we experience caregiving as we get older. It's very different. It's very different. I'm curious what you guys think about process. Because process can mean a couple different things. Process can be how we receive information and then what that information means to us. And process also could be like a system we've set up to manage a certain circumstance. And when I think about process as the emotional part of it, I think about how a caree's processing of a diagnosis or a prognosis can be different than our process. A family member's process of a decline of a caree or a change in prognosis can be different than ours. And I also think, just like with nervous system, we're also managing when others have a denial about a reality, and we're managing it so that we're coping with that denial while we're still moving forward in the reality of the situation. And that's hard to do. And then a process again could be, this is how we set up our supplies, this is how we use them, this is how we replenish them, this is how we do meal prep, this is how we do family dinners. So it's interesting to think about that has two different meanings.
Process can also be related to routine as well,
Yeah.
particularly uh, in our carries who have they experience autism. There's a lot of routine to that, and there's processes within that that we have to kind of stick close to because that's comfortable for them. And so routine could be part of that process as well.
Yeah, which actually then goes right into stress management. When there's a disruption in the process and the routine, there's an increase in stress.
For the carry and the carry and the carer.
Yeah, which is why we worry about taking a break.
Yeah.
A break, everybody just talks about a break as the solution, and it's nice to take a break, but it's a disruption. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of coordination. Okay, so let's think through what form the change takes. And these are just some suggestions. If you were to think through, I want to change lunchtime for a family caregiver who has a family member who cares for a family member with dementia. Get really specific, and then you can think about, well, what's the form? It could be a book about lunchtime meals, and you have recipes for lunch, activities for lunch, and then maybe you have a pre and post routine for lunch. And it sounds like, wow, that's a simple book, but if you struggle with noon meals, caring for a family member with dementia, what a solution that would be to have recipes and activities and ideas about how to manage when a carry is triggered. Wouldn't that be fabulous? And then it could be a class where you teach a group of family caregivers about a process or a system that could work. It could be one-on-one coaching. It could be group coaching. It could be a podcast that's specific to a particular topic. What I find fascinating is there's a podcast for everything.
Mm.
My niece told me about a program a friend of hers created for early risers, people who like to get up early in the morning. And it's a huge success because what she learned is people who get up early in the morning want to connect with other people who get up early in the morning. I thought that was so interesting to think about that as a solution, a community of early risers. It could be a product. So let's say this individual who created this community for early risers creates a product for them. Like maybe they all take a walk together as part of their early rise, and she creates like a little backpack for them that they wear that keeps their water bottle or whatever it is that, their phone easy to access while they're talking on the phone. So she has a program and a product. And then maybe her service is someone who wishes they could be an early riser. She helps them become an early riser. And then it could just be social media posts. It could be tips posted every Wednesday. Here's a tip if you are in this situation, here's what you can do. And then maybe the social media tips are organized on a website so they're easy to find. And then maybe it's a workshop that you create, develop. And it could be all of these things over a period of time. Like you start with one, and then you keep adding over a period of time. The change evolves into different forms. I'm curious if there is a solution you've connected with, and how do you connect to that solution? Meaning, is it a book you like to read regularly? Is it a podcast you listen to? Is it a YouTube channel?
Well, in my case, we created a book, um, but it's a book to help caregivers in a particular population with a particular population meet requirements that they have to meet um, for a waiver for their family member. There's certain criteria and things that they need to do for when the social worker comes out or other people. They have to have certain things in place. So because we went through that, we were able to create a book that paid caregivers that come in are able to utilize and understand the individual that they're caring for, but it also meets the requirements for the waiver and the people that will come in and check in on those individuals or the caree. So we've been able to take that, put that together, and other families are able to utilize it and personalize it to their caree, and so that's been a big hit. So um, yeah, it helps us, so we want to pass that on to other people so it could help them.
And you're solving a problem we encounter in bureaucracy because you're because you're talking about a Medicaid waiver
Right,
program
right,
a carrier has to qualify for. And then I think it's a program where the carrier can determine who provides care, and
correct. Yeah,
and then that
we consider in Georgia self-directed. Um,
yes, there you
uh,
go.
right, so it's the now and comp waiver. So there's certain requirements that need to be in place. So we figure out a way to do that to make sure that the caree or that family member is staying on top of it, and that they're meeting the requirements that they need to meet to stay compliant. And so it's been very helpful.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Ken? I should actually connect you to one of our other certified caregiving consultants, Barbara Corley. She's in Ohio, and she was hired by her county to provide that support. And it's a waiver program, and it could be a professional caregiver who's hired by the family to provide service, or it could be a family member who's hired. But it's the same process of remaining compliant with the program requirements.
Yes,
'Cause you think you can read what the program says you need to do to be compliant and understand it?
but you got to prove it, and it's got to be
Yeah,
documentation and everything
yeah,
else. So uh,
yes,
to be able to set that up where somebody
yes,
just follows that template, it's great.
yes, that's a beautiful idea. The bureaucracy to get help and support sometimes is an obstacle, and you're changing that obstacle with good information, with a process, with a system. Because the last thing you want to do is be non-compliant with a program that helps.
Because those resources are so important, and we're in a state here that has not expanded the Medicare, um, to a lot of the citizens. We're praying that that does happen, and we're advocating for that. But it hasn't happened here in Georgia, so it's very those resources are very valuable, and there's a lot of people on what we call the waiting list here, um, waiting to receive services and resources. And until they expand the Medicaid waiver, that's not going to happen. Um, so we have to be make sure that we're compliant and doing the things we need to do to continue to have that waiver.
So Beverly, who's also one of our certified caregiving consultants, she's in the Atlanta area. I should introduce you to her. She was on the wait list for 7 years.
Mm,
And it is very stressful to feel like you're alone in figuring this out. For instance, you might worry about reaching out to your case manager and saying, I'm struggling with how to manage this because you don't want to tip anybody off that you're struggling to manage it. So you want to sometimes just keep it to yourself, but isn't it helpful to speak it out to someone else who gets it and understands how convoluted it can be? Yeah, that's a great example of delivering change. We can't change the bureaucracy, we can change our understanding of it so that we know how to manage it. Okay, so that's our formal presentation for today. I just want to mention that if you want to join us in May, in Chicago for our conference, we do have a special offer for, oops, sorry, let me go through this, for our certified caregiving consultants and our comfort care family coaches. So if you enroll before October 1st, you can contribute a chapter to our forgiveness anthology, which will be a book that we release in the spring. We'll have additional support for those who are writing a chapter so that you feel good about the chapter you're writing. And then we'll also have additional support for a workshop. Our existing CCCs will be the ones who present at the May conference. But if you join us to become a certified caregiving consultant, what a great opportunity to come to the conference, connect with other CCCs, and see what it's like. So you'll be ready to submit a proposal to present the following year. Okay, so you can find more information about this on Caring Our Way, which is our community of support. And I had promised Sister that we would go, I think I said a half hour. Okay, so we're at a half hour. So we'll go ahead and stop. Okay.
Thank you, Denise.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. So I saw you twice today. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to May.
Yeah, I know I am too. I hope your wife is going to come too.
I'm working on that.
Okay, all
Mhm.
right.
We'll
Okay.
see what we
Thank you
can
very
do.
much.
Okay,
Okay,
bye-bye.
thank you
Bye.
both.
Thank you.
Okay, a good weekend.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye bye.